Hey guys, welcome back to the channel and welcome to another video of Marvel Contest of Champions. We are jumping on to Moleman Week 2 Summer of Suffering. Now this is going to be a very difficult and annoying fight. I'll tell you right off the bat, so listen closely and let's figure out this fight. Now before I jump into that, let's talk about the objectives for this fight. The first one is going to be to defeat Moleman with a mutant and a size medium champion. And second one is going to be to defeat Moleman with a defensive utility and size champion. And the final one is to defeat Moleman with a mystic champion. Now with all of these objectives into play, let's talk about Moleman's kit very briefly. I'm sure you're all aware that Moleman is a crazy champion that does a lot of damage in his frenzy mode. He applies a lot of crits and a lot of bleeds. So the whole premise of playing against Moleman is to play around his frenzy mode. But when he's not in frenzy mode, he has a very potent shrug off. So anytime you apply a debuff on Moleman, he is going to shrug it off and he's going to gain monster mass. Now once he has 20 monster mass, or if he uses a special 3, or if he uses a special 1 after gaining 8 monster mass, he goes into frenzy. So that's where we need to take care about and play around the frenzy. Now to make matters worse, there are some nodes here that are going to make your life hell too. So the first one is going to be Hubris. We've used this node in story quest before. So basically your defender, in our case Moleman, will take 90% less damage. But during the special attack, this protection is removed and any damage that is taken by Moleman during the special attack is all multiplied by 350 and this damage is dealt back to Moleman, kinda like Power Sting. So yeah, there are some good champions for this, but in general you want to take champions that have easy access to debuffs, and those debuffs that will tick during the special attack will help you deal damage. There's also gifted, so defender ability accuracy increased by 200%, so definitely he'll be shrugging off. There is no chance of not shrugging off for debuffs while he's not in frenzy. And then there's standing in fear, so if you're near the defender, it will apply a fatigue debuff on Moleman, so that will further feed into his monster mass to build up towards his frenzy. There is spite also, so whenever you have an active buff on you, that will give a flood of power to Moleman, granting 18% power per second. And there's going to be stun immunity and tranquility, so every 25 seconds all buffs and debuffs are removed from both champions and the power is reset to 0. And finally there's bubble shield. After every 10 times you block or hit, the 11th is going to be unblockable, so make sure on the 11th hit that you're about to block, dex it. Now having that out of the way, let's jump into the fights and discuss each objective one by one, the best options and what I went with. Alrighty, now we understand the mechanics, the nodes, and the different objectives for this fight. So let's jump on to the first objective. The first objective is going to be defeat Moleman with a mystic champion with offensive style damage over time. Now there are a few champions that can work here, so there are limited options. So your Kindred is a good option here. Your Kushala, in my opinion, is probably the best option. I've also seen this fight being taken with Werewolves by Night and also with Tigra. There is another option of a Wiccan, but I have not personally tried or seen anyone do it. But in theory it can be done as well, but I think if you have a Kushala, that is going to be your best option. Now the way this fight works, I will try to get 20 debuffs on Moleman as quick as possible, so I can put him into frenzy just like this. When in frenzy, now my debuffs will stick on him, so I'm going to use every time he will throw a special attack, and then I'm gonna just spam my SP1 so I can apply more and more of those debuffs. So when he throws a SP1, I can easily evade that, and all the damage that my debuffs will do during the special attack, I am able to convert that as damage with Hubris node to Moleman. So I've taken a lot of damage, but let's refocus. Here's an SP1, I block to activate my blue blessing, and then I use a heavy attack to activate my yellow blessing. This is what I'm going to do throughout the fight. So again, SP1, parry the first shock, and then after use a heavy attack. That helps me keep all of my blue and the yellow blessings up, and also if I take a lot of block damage, that I will heal back. Now, once you have more blessings activated, Moleman becomes more aggressive, or your opponents become more aggressive, so it's easier to intercept. So the fight loop for here is going to be activate the frenzy on Moleman. Once the frenzy is activated, make sure you always keep him to an SP1. You can also push him to an SP2, but SP1 is easier to parry and then use a heavy on the second attack of it. So this is the parry, and then I use a heavy, and this keeps my blue and yellow blessing up. The next question you might ask, Noob, how do I mitigate the block damage that is too much? Remember that when he is not in frenzy mode, he's not going to do much of block damage, so you can just block and wait for him to throw a heavy attack, and then you can retaliate. But when he is in frenzy, you have to definitely avoid that. But if you play it right and you have all of your blessings and the loop going, it's very easy to intercept. Once he does not have power, you go in and you do 3 hits, you dash back, and you just spam a light attack. So light attack intercepts are much more easier to do, and they can keep pushing Moleman above 1 bar of power, and you can keep going through this loop. Let him throw a special attack, SP1, you parry the first shock that comes along the ground, then you wait for his jump, and then use a heavy attack to keep your blessings up, and that will keep you topped up as well. And yeah, just as soon as you build an SP1, throw that out on the ignition charges, and you will apply those incinerates. And just like that, you can be working along once you understand this loop. So just to reiterate, for the block damage, make sure that you can block when he's not in frenzy, but when he's in frenzy, you need to really avoid it. But Kushala gives you easy intercepts, so that shouldn't be much of a problem. And finally, do not forget about the bubble shield node. Every 10 multiples, the next hit you have to evade, because it's going to be unblockable. And if Moleman is in frenzy, he is going to do quite a bit of damage. And most importantly, when this fight is about to finish, so most important thing is, do not hit him into block. He will go unstoppable, he will retaliate, and he will just kill you off. Now, the second objective is going to be to take down Moleman with a mutant and a medium. Now, there are plenty of champions that fit that objective, but for me, Iceman was like amazing and brilliant for this fight. I know a lot of people went with Toad, but some good examples that can there's good champions that can take this fight are going to be your Archangel, is going to be your Toad. Your Iceman was really a surprise package for me, and I haven't tried X29. He should kind of work theoretically, but I'm not sure. I've not tried him. But again, the options here are limited. Wolverine should also work as well, OG, but if you have a 6-star, only then bring him in. So yeah, these are the few options that should work on this fight. Anybody with a lot of debuffs, your Danny Moonstar is also a good option here. Now, you've noticed that I've pushed Moleman to an SP3. I did it on purpose because I can tank the SP3 with Iceman's armor, and it's an easy push to frenzy on Moleman. So all of that ramp up that you need to do, you need to apply 20 debuffs for Moleman to go into frenzy mode. You can just bypass all of that. So the strategy with Iceman is pretty simple. Look at that damage. It's very simple. Keep blocking in the beginning of the fight. Let Moleman throw a heavy attack. Once he does throw a heavy attack, you retaliate, use 4-hit combos and block. And again, try to push him to an SP3 every now and again when you can, when you have an ice armor up, to keep his frenzy charges topped up. And then throw an SP1 whenever it's ready. Now, when that will do, it would apply a cold snap, and it will also apply frostbite charges. So when it's a little bit of RNG based as well, but that's okay. Whenever the frostbite charges are going to expire during the special attack of Moleman, those are going to be multiplied with 350% damage, and that will give like a huge damage to Moleman. It's barely 2 minutes and the fight is almost over with Iceman. So he's one of the best options. Now, very quickly, another strategy is also that you spam your SP1 after you activate his frenzy by let him throwing an SP3. Is when you finish the animation of his SP1, you can use a heavy attack you can use the heavy attack to detonate those frostbite charges and do that damage, so that also works. But for me, it was very simple. Push him to an SP3, get his frenzy activated, and then keep throwing my SP1s, and the natural expiry of the frostbite deal crazy amount of damage. So for me, Iceman was the best option. Now moving on to the final objective. If you are Valiant, you are going to get another objective that is going to be defeat Moleman with a Science Champion and tagged also defensive utility. Oh man, this was quite annoying, because especially because of the class disadvantage, and we are looking at a very limited pool of defensive utility and Science Champions. Now when I look at the defensive utility and Science Champions, only champion that stands out to me is your either your Joe Fixit, or the other one is going to be your Spiderham. There's no other champions that do like a damage over time effect. Void can work to a certain extent. Once the frenzy are activated, then his nodes will kick in, so Void can work. Spot maybe can work, but all the damage in his block is going to be hard to deal with. But somewhere I can see him working with all of his ruptures. Just keep throwing your special ones, and the mist will help you with easy intercepts. But yeah, the damage on the block will be crazy. I wouldn't recommend. So these are the options I think that can work on the fight. Now jumping back onto the fight, the strategy with Spiderham is pretty simple. I like to use medium, light, medium, and as soon as I get an SP1, I want to throw that out so I can apply as many kind of debuffs on Moleman as possible, so he can shrug them off quick and get into his frenzy mode as soon as possible, because that's where the real money lies. So as soon as he goes into a frenzy mode, now he's not going to shrug off any kind of debuffs. So what you need to do is keep applying those power stings and keep using those SP1s to pause them, and let Moleman throw his specials. Whenever he will throw a special, the power stings are going to detonate on him, and once the special dagger will finish, Hubris node will multiply it by 350%, and it will do quite a bit of damage. And just slowly like that, you are able to take on Moleman with Spiderham. Joe Fixit works the same way. Just spam your SP1s, and because of the bleeds, first you're gonna put Moleman into frenzy, and then after that, those damaging debuffs over time are going to help you deal damage to Moleman. Now it is an annoying fight. It is going to be difficult. You see that I've done 3 solos, but it took me quite a bit of time. The only fastest solo I got was with Iceman. That is on my 3rd attempt. Kushala took me like 27 attempts, and Spiderham took me like 18 attempts. So don't worry about it. If you know, in the beginning you're not able to do it, you have 2 weeks to get this done. So let's keep an eye on the timer as well. No need to hurry on it. Take your time, learn the fight. This fight is more based on the technique and the gameplay loop rather than the best champion you have available. So having said that, final tip is to keep an eye on the bubble shield counter. Every 10 multiples, please evade the next incoming attack. That is going to be unblockable, and you are good to go for this fight. Once you understand the mechanics and the loop, it's not really a difficult one. I mean, it is difficult, but it gets much easier. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Let me know in the comment section if you have any comments, if you have any questions. I'll be happy to help you out, and I'll see you on the next video. Bye.